Why, hello there, and welcome to another episode of the Innovantage Podcast, where business meets tech to bring you your competitive edge. As always, I'm your host, Max, and it is my ongoing job and duty to explore that edge between business and tech from many different facets of those two things. And today's episode is a very special one because we are going to be looking at both business and technology through the lens of both politics and, well, much smaller companies in the real sector, and how those two combine with each other and what it takes to make the transition from one into the other, and are there any influences between them. And to help me on that journey today is a very special guest, is Aušrinė Armonaitė, who is the former Minister of Innovation and Economy. I almost forgot that. Innovation and Economy of Lithuania, and currently is responsible for investor relations in InRento. So, Aušrinė, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did your career evolve? Where did you start? How did you get into politics? How did you move out of politics? And
Well, I was very young when I entered politics, and I think it was because I was always very interested in politics, but at the same time very active. As a young person, I was a member of many youth NGOs and so on. So one thing led to another, and I ended up there. We founded Laisvės partija in 2019. Even though I was in politics also before. So almost for a decade, I was there up until December last year. It was a very interesting and rich experience, I must say, because I had a chance and, of course, the responsibility, to represent the voters, people who believed in me and us. Also implement reforms and make a change as the minister and also as a member of parliament. But now I'm happy to be a part of private sector, which is also a very interesting experience. And when I sometimes compare private and public sectors, they have many things in common, but also a lot of things that are different. So we may also discuss that in this podcast.
I really hope that we will be able to do that comprehensively enough.
Yeah.
At the very least. So then my initial question would be what drove you to InRento specifically? What does it do? I'm pretty sure a lot of our listeners do not know. So what does the company do? What are its missions? What are goals? And what do you do as responsible for investor relations?
Well, InRento is a buy-to-let crowdfunding platform. And I'm very proud that in Lithuania, we have the booming and blooming financial technology sector. Yeah. And InRento is one of the companies, that emerged here in 2020. Basically, we allow investors, starting from even smaller amounts, like 500 euros, for instance, to invest into real estate rental properties. We're expanding. Well, we are here in Lithuania. We're very happy being here, but at the same time, we're expanding, strengthening our positions in Poland, Italy, Ireland, and I hope that broader European continent. It's also an innovative approach to investing, because sometimes, and most of the time, I think, people think that, okay, if you want to become an investor, you have to be, very well educated when it comes to economy, finances, and so on. Also, you have to have a lot of money. You have to know things about stocks, bonds, and so on. Yeah. With our crowdfunding platform, but also others, investing comes closer to more people. And I think this is a game-changing point in the investment world.
Okay. That's a very noble goal, I would say. Because I agree with the point definitely that for a lot of people, investing seems like out of reach, something that only the rich people do and impossible to grasp without,
Yeah.
I don't know, hours and hours or thousands of hours of education into what investing is and how to do it. So the crowdfunding part of the real estate crowdfunding, how does that usually work? Do you have a set amount of like entities or people that you separate one real estate piece into? Or is it like, how does the system work basically?
Well, actually, everything is on our website. Of course, we don't want to turn this conversation into perhaps a advertising
of course.
thing, but yeah, just very to put it very simply, we work with our partners that are responsible for developing the real estate rental projects.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's conversions, renovations, old buildings turning into new life.
Yeah.
And everybody actually can take part in it. They may invest certain amount of money, starting from 500 euros, as I said. And then these money are being, lended to the project owner. So in 24 months or 36 months, these projects are being realized with an average return of nearly 12% to the
Oh, wow.
to the investor. I know that it sounds very high,
Yeah.
but that's how this market works.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's hope that it will continue working in that way with...
Well, obviously, that investment involves risks,
Of course.
involves taking risks, and especially when we consider, where to put our finances. I know it is a cliche to say, but it is true. I mean, you have to diversify across the investment tools, geography, projects, and so on. That's what I also personally believe in.
Yeah, I also believe in the same thing. My own perspective on this has been that, I am originally from Belarus, where I was born, and that side of my family has, lived through the Soviet Union and through the collapse of it and the aftermath of it, which were not fun times by any stretch of the imagination. So kind of culturally, investing is seen as something like unattainable. There isn't enough stability in the economy to invest into anything. Any assets that are out there, like they can be gone like this, either because the Soviets decided or because the Soviet collapsed or because a new government is on top of that or whatever, where you have insane inflation every like 5 to 10 years, so it's impossible to predict. On the other hand, growing up in Israel and seeing people like from that part of the world, they view the economy as a much more robust thing, where of course you invest because cash is one of the worst assets that you can have, like, theoretically speaking. It's a depreciating asset in essence, where if you have like $100 every year due to inflation and diminishing purchasing power, you will have less and less and less. Yeah, you'll have that $100 still, but you will be able to do with it less and less and less. So yeah, it makes sense that you invest, that you diversify, that you have something saved in cash, of course. But then most of your assets need to be in different places. And that clash has always been very interesting for me to kind of observe, because you can have, one family sitting at one table with such different views on what the markets are and what you do with your money and what money even is. So that's, a side tangent.
But that's a very interesting distinction, because I think that, living and growing up in Central Eastern Europe, this is exactly that, because there was not only, planned economy, but 35 years ago, 40 years ago, but also, what Soviet system did, they eliminated trust among the communities, and investing or doing business generally always involves trust. and it is basically based on trust, right?
Yeah.
So I think that these are like very fundamental, substantial things, now are changing and changing like rapidly. And well, I think it's not a miracle, but it seems like a miracle. Like this kind of small country as Lithuania is a number one fintech hub in the European Union, and I think there are around 14 or 15 platforms when it comes to crowdfunding, while in some of the European countries there are almost none. So yeah, I think that innovation is not only something that, well, it's very broad and maybe sometimes not very precise, but actually it comes to very concrete, precise industries and basically change them from the very basis.
And that in and of itself sounds like a pretty big challenge, honestly speaking, and something that as a minister, you've probably been facing every single day.
Mm-hmm.
So let's take a little bit of a step back
Yep.
into your tenure as a politician. Are there any highlights or standouts from your career that you would point to and say that, I am proud of that? Or maybe on the other hand, that's something that I definitely do not want to revisit.
Well, the thing is that there were so many things and so many layers and so many angles and so many policies. And well, one of the differences I see, comparing politics and private sector is that politics gives you the opportunity, to see the very broad global picture, and also take part in it. Even as a minister, I mean, it's a more particular, area that I was working, like economy and innovation.
Yeah.
But at the same time, within this, it was like there were like, numerous topics from biotechnology to lasers, financial technology, business climate, entrepreneurship, lots of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then when it comes to business, if if you have your sort of own industry you're taking part in, it's not that broad, but it's very deep. You go in depth. You have to know all the details, all the nuances that sometimes being a minister, a member of parliament, you can leave it to your team, and they'll just wrap it up for you, and then you'll discuss the fundamentals. While being in business, you have to know everything if you want to perform, very, very good as obviously. We want to do that. So both worlds are very interesting because going deep, is also exciting. There are lots of things going on there, but then going wide is also something that was exciting. So that's that. Now, answering your question, I think that what we accomplished as a team in the Ministry of Economy and Innovation is that we strengthened the Lithuanian positions when it comes to being an advanced technology economy. And there were a lot of, many crises we were dealing with, multiply crises like COVID, war that Russians started in Ukraine. Then we had our trade disputes as well with People's Republic of China and illegal migration. I mean, it was crazy, but at the same time, we accomplished, that we accomplished a very strong economy, that was growing, that was, there was no recession as it was not a given, because we've seen in our region economies, getting slower and even now they are struggling. So I think that maintaining this competitiveness, was, while it was very difficult, it was one of the accomplishments. Also, it involved a lot of work. A lot of work. For instance, we implemented an innovation reform. We established new markets, or actually helped businesses, enter those. Attracted record investment, foreign investment to Lithuania. And this was because of the hard work of Lithuanian people. And also, I want to think as well, and I believe so, because of the active, proactive team in our ministry and in the government. Now, maybe turning more to other areas, I was not only a minister, I was a member of parliament, and it was more than 8 years. We did we put a lot of efforts when it comes to human rights representation, strengthening Lithuania as a country that is open to everybody, where everyone can feel respected. And there were a lot of many initiatives. Some of them went through and are now status quo, and I'm happy about it. Some of them still needs to be finished, but I think that it was, as I said, it was a very interesting time, but also I think that it was not like a personal journey for me, but also I made an impact. How things were going. I added something to my country's life, and I'm happy about it. But now it's the past. Now let's look at the future.
Well, I can definitely attest to the work that the Lithuanian people as a whole have done. Not being Lithuanian myself, I have been doing business in Lithuania for a long time, since 2018 definitely, but maybe even before that.
2018.
18, yeah. That's, I think, when we first established our first legal body here in Lithuania. And over time, I definitely saw how the economy kind of evolved and developed, and how it became more and more attractive as an entrepreneur to do business here and to, invite our clients here as well, because our business is mostly international. And as many businesses from this region, we are, of course, focusing on Western Europe and the UK and the US a little bit, but not a focus for us. But still, we've done some business with the US over the years. But more and more, I see possibilities to do business here without losing any substantial amount of the business itself, without losing its DNA, without losing its quality, without doing anything worse, honestly. And that's exciting to see. That's interesting, again, because from my own perspective, growing up again in Israel, it's a bit removed from the global politics. It's there, but it's also a bit to the sides when you're working inside of the country and so on and so forth. You're very closed off. But from living here, I can definitely feel both being parts of something larger and having the space for personal interpretation or personal, personal development or whatever. So in any case, I can attest to my own kind of on the sidelines what I've seen Lithuania become over the years. And again, talking to my family were still alive during the Soviet collapse, when they tell me yeah, I remember Vilnius, we used to go there to the market to buy some eggs or something like that.
It was a common practice, maybe.
Yeah. From then to now, it's a completely different thing. And for example, when I talked to government representatives from the Benelux region, for example, they noted a lot of our infrastructural developments as well. So, and that is something that I have felt on myself as well. The digital infrastructure, and generally speaking, most infrastructural things in the country are very developed. And I think we have one of
internet or
if we're talking digital infrastructure, telecommunications, internet, I think all of the country has 5G now. My go-to joke when I network with business people outside of the country somewhere, I tell them, do you know anything about Lithuania? They tell me, no. Well, It's a country here in Europe. And here we talk about us, that that you're in Vilnius, for example, if you're walking amongst the forest and then you have perfect internet connection, and in the middle of the forest there is the stand that you can buy something with. You just use Apple Pay or whatever to pay, because you never take cash with you, because why would you? That's insane. And then you just move on your way, and then you're still in the city center probably, even though you're in the middle of the forest. So that's basically Lithuania.
It's nice that you, someone like you who grew up and was born somewhere else, actually pitches Lithuania as your country. So I think it's just an evidence of the global Lithuania that Lithuania is, a global player, but also that has friends worldwide and from many parts of the world.
Yeah. That's what I like about it. That's what I try to do. And that's part of the reason why I'm doing this podcast, to highlight a lot of the businesses that are here, a lot of the people that are here, a lot of the politics that goes on here in the country as a whole. But, coming back to you and to your journey and your experiences. So what made you decide that, politics is enough and you want to move into the private sector?
Well, it's a very serious question, but also maybe a simple answer to it. The thing is that the election results were not that good for our political party. And basically that was a signal, that, okay, maybe there has to be some change. Not only how we operate as a party, but also for me personally. And, I'm not one of those politicians, and there are many of them in Lithuania who are just, want to stay in politics at any cost. Any cost. I don't like that. I don't think it's a path for me. Because the world is full of opportunities, and you may not only, change your country being in politics, you can make a change being in a private sector as well. And sometimes if the impact you do sometimes is even larger. And we see Lithuanian businesses changing our country, and also Europe and the whole technology world, actually. So that's that, and then that's how I turned to the private sector. And we'll see. We'll see. It's just a few months, with the decision, but also, of course, it came not like instantly, but it came with the time. So I'm happy now to make an impact here, and then let's see how it goes.
Well, that's an admirable trait, honestly, because a lot of the problem with modern politics is thanks to politicians not wanting to move on. And I think that's what's kind of separates a dictatorship from a democracy a lot of the time is, politicians need to move on. They have term limits, they have rotations.
Yeah, and think exactly. And I mean, 4-year mandate is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing we need, because if you stay for a long time in one position, I mean, then you can't see, wrong things you're doing, or maybe, you can't see, your job objectively from out of the box. You sometimes may lack of ideas, and I think, for me personally, it's very important, to have new ideas and the creativity part. Both in the private and in the public sector, you need to stay creative and evolve, constantly. So that's that. And it's a funny comparison, the dictatorship and democracy. But sometimes in democracies as well, people want to stay at any cost. And I think it's wrong, because yes, we need experience in the public sector. We need experienced people. But at the same time, I mean, we need some changes as well. We need new people. We We need new things. So I'm okay with that.
Well, that's good. That's good. And I think that's your at least experience in attracting investments and doing innovations in the economy of a whole country very well translates to a more kind of in-depth view, as you've said, from a more broader one to a more in-depth one. So what do you think, what are your current plans, goals, ambitions for investor relations in the private sector specifically?
Well, I have joined a very ambitious, hardworking team, and they had big plans, not only in Lithuania but also in Europe, and we are at the scaling stage. So for me, personally, it is interesting, and also I'm learning a lot at the same time. Scaling in Europe, opening new offices, funding new projects, attracting new clients to our platform.
Yeah.
This is something that makes me excited, because we help people. We help people investing their savings, their money. Proposing a lot of options and more opportunities. So we are very happy that we have strong base here in Lithuania, but then also we are also very proud that we have investors. Like the second market for our investor base is Germany. So German people invest also in real estate rental projects in Lithuania or Poland, where we also operate. So Europe is a very broad and also at the same time very deep ocean of opportunities. Sometimes from the regulatory basis, well, it likes to shoot oneself in the foot, but well, let's leave it there. Still, it's a vast continent full of opportunities, and I'm very happy I joined the very ambitious team that is ready to take these opportunities in Europe.
Okay. Global expansion, at least from the European standpoint, sounds like an interesting and very challenging thing to do.
It is, yeah, both.
So you've mentioned the trust that goes into the whole investing mindset, I would say, right? That trust needs to exist between the government and the businesses and the people that work with the businesses and contribute to the government and so on and so forth. So it's an ecosystem. How do you plan, or what have you already maybe done to build that trust with the investors that you actually work with or planning to?
Well, actually, it's just my the very beginning of this new chapter. So maybe we'll have another conversation in some months where I could share more, because it's just a very start. But as I said, I mean, it is based on the business and the investment industries. They are based on trust, where you trust people, you are investing with their help, but at the same time, we invest into our, we trust our partners, and the trust is being built through experience, through the track record. I joined the team that for almost 5 years or more than 5 years of their activities, they had 0 defaulted or late projects.
Nice.
This means that they were very careful, very conservative in a good way, and this trust, it doesn't come, just like that. It comes from your sort of, from the past, from the work you've done. So it's the particular, case for me. So I also have to build, to build that track record, now, from starting from today, from the beginning of, from the day I joined InRento. And it's, I mean, we're talking about now the particular company, but it's always like that, trust comes with some experience.
Oh, yeah.
So, you mentioned Soviet times when everybody, wants to, steal and lies to you, starting from the government, there is no trust where neighbors are turned against each other, But when you start saying good morning to your neighbor, and I notice that it's more the case now in Vilnius, but it's not like always, but we're getting there. So it's also building trust and building this track record of not only being polite but also being friendly and closer to people. So yeah, it's a bit of a mix.
Yeah, that's part of the kind of stereotypes, I guess, the stereotypes about Eastern Europe as a whole. When you're looking from the west towards the east, you're like, what do you imagine here? Grumpy people that are, dark weather and everything's cold and everybody's kind of angry all the time.
Yeah.
But I think that's changing more and more.
But the thing is, I think that in Lithuania, it's also a mixture of Eastern European experience, but also Northern, like being more like colder than average. I mean, I'm talking not about the weather, but the personalities. I mean, we don't like to be, close physically to people. We like distance. And COVID was nice to some extent.
To some extent.
Yeah, it's a joke, of course.
Of course.
Anyway, so, Lithuania is a mix of both. And then you have this quite, careful, not smiling community. We are not smiling even though we're happy we're having a good day. But it's changing a little bit.
Yeah. I feel that those kinds of connections and that trust helps build things. And again, I see a lot of people, like even in my circle, people have also come from Israel, for example, people from France, from the Netherlands, Belgium, the United Kingdom. So people from all over, they kind of just mix in and they bring a little bit of themselves with themselves, of course, and that kind of contributes positively or negatively. That's up for debate, of course, but I think it does.
Well, personally, I think positively, and Vilnius for ages was a very international city, all like from the very beginning. I mean, people from everywhere in Europe, came here to create their lives. And I think now we're at that point where these times are, coming back. It is an international city and everybody contributes and also pitches Lithuania as the place to be, as a country, that has achieved a lot.
True. I was initially very surprised when I first came to Vilnius, like 10 maybe more years ago, how easy and how many people talked in English. In this part of the world. That was very surprising for me. Like I was used to talking in English from a very young age, just by the nature of, me personally being an international person. Half my family lives in one place, half my family lives in another place. And when you have Jewish heritage, you basically have people all over. I have family
everywhere.
Like all over the globe. So I'm used to that kind of mindset, but when I would travel to my family in Belarus, for example, nobody spoke English. And I'm like, yeah, well, what can you do? When I grew up in Israel, people speak English pretty well, but at the same time, not kind of, it wasn't as ubiquitous, I would say. People can speak it, but don't really use it that much. I don't know how to describe it, honestly, but that was kind of my feeling and my experience growing up. But now, as a grown-up, of course, I was basically very shocked by that fact. Like, okay, everybody speaks English. That was unexpected. But it definitely contributes, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, that's not only, a tool to communicate, but also a sign of, this global approach and being open to the world. And I think that for countries like Lithuania and smaller countries, Israel as well, it is important to be open. And it's not only words, actually, it's also economy. Lithuania exports almost everything it produces, So we have to be open to the world, or I mean, technology solutions that are being developed here, and you're very well you are very well aware of that, of course, that it has to be it has to be applicable not only here but also used worldwide in other markets, and these have to be, you know, universal, some globally used tools. So that's also, you know, exciting, that you just not you live not only with yourself, but also you have to be open to the world, not only to be nice, but also to survive.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. Speaking of that, I know that you've had experience working outside of Lithuania with East Africa, right? Developing that region as well. So can you maybe share some experience in developing countries versus what we've already achieved in Lithuania?
Yeah, well, that's a very good question, and I'm very into this comparison now. Because, you know, when traveling across East Africa, and perhaps also the whole continent, I mean, you can see a lot of similarities to the Central European region. And I know that when I say that, it sounds not legit, far away. But what I really mean is that some of the countries are like us in the early 90s or 80s, something like that, you know. And they can actually, and what countries like Lithuania, Estonia, I don't know, Czechia, many countries in our region, basically everybody in our region, what they achieved, you know, they created wealth through one generation, like through our parents' generation. Just like that, you know, from nothing, basically, from Soviet planned economy, communism, to technology hubs, you know, and purchasing power that now is growing like an skyrocketing, starting from, well, if you compare, you know, what we started from. So if it was possible here, I'm saying that it is possible everywhere, and also in Africa. However, there are, of course, many differences, and especially when it comes to cultural differences, work culture, and so on. This is something that we have to take into account. But you know, the thing is that African people, they don't like, you know, people from Europe coming teaching them. And I totally understand them. They were colonized, you know, and so on. But us, Eastern Europeans, if I may call us so, because in Lithuania we don't like that, but let's speak that.
Eastern Europe starts only east of where you live. So
yeah. So, but this Central Eastern Europe, Northeastern Europe, how would you put it? Doesn't matter. I think that we can understand African people more because to some extent we were also colonized, or there were attempts, you know, to, well, we were occupied, we were colonized, and we understand these sort of dilemmas and nuances. So we may share, maybe not from the teaching point of view, but, you know, we were going through the same experience. And what some of the countries in Africa have accomplished, where it is also very impressive, like Rwanda being a digital hub there. Of course, there are a lot of stuff. Let's put it that way. But still, I think it's a continent of opportunities. We were talking about Europe as a continent of opportunities, but Africa is a continent of opportunities, especially for Europeans, because it's quite close to us. We have good connections, and also the same time zones. So for business, it is important. And now when we see, the U.S. withdrawing from global partnerships and also withdrawing money from different kind of programs, not only NGOs but also business, Europeans, Lithuanians could step in, and also create something there.
Yeah, that's a very interesting opportunity.
I don't know whether you had anything, any experience, not in Africa or
personally. No.
Yeah.
That continent has eluded me thus far, so I know basically nothing about it, but aside from common knowledge.
Yeah. Of course, it's a vast continent and very different, like Europe, right? North, south, central. We are very different there as well. Northern Africa is very much close to Europe, not only physically but also culturally. And then South Africa is another story.
Oh, yeah.
Western part, Nigeria, land of opportunities in itself. So, yeah.
So what would you say then are kind of the core pillars of the Lithuanian economy that some or maybe all of African countries that you've interacted with can benefit from or just learn from?
You mean from Lithuania?
Yeah, like in that development, if they are in the 90s, so you already have that experience of 32 years. What would you say that?
Well, I think that these countries, they lack investment. Not only infrastructure, and that's the case for your economy. For the economy to run, you have to have roads or bridges or something like that. So that's very, very basic. But also, what I learned is that sometimes people say that, people from some countries, they don't want to work. That's not true. If they have opportunities, if they see that, okay, it's not only NGOs, but also an actual job I can do and receive a salary and grow there, people are eager to do that. So the governments, they have to think about, how to attract businesses to grow entrepreneurship there. So it's the second thing, and it's also very basic and very clear. Now, third thing is leapfrogging. Just like us, I mean, African countries may not need to go through every step of the technology development. For instance, they don't need fax, anymore. They can just, jump and apply the newest things, blockchain, AI, just a few, but and then starting from there. And fourth is education. That's the basics, and that is something that we have to apply both for Lithuania and any other country in the world. That when you won't have an independently, thinking individuals, critically thinking, creative people, then the whole development may not work.
Oh yes. That's a heavy topic in and of itself. Education.
It's crazy.
Yeah, especially right now.
Are you following the news, the local news on education in Lithuania?
Not too closely. Globally, yes. And I've spoken to several people who are like in the edtech space and professors of universities, but European ones. Well, one professor from local university as well. And there have been a lot of conversations about how to adapt current educational systems to the current type of student. But honestly, so far, I haven't heard a consensus anywhere. But what's going on specifically in Lithuania?
I don't think it's worth, discussing very broadly. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of debates now regarding the exams of the school graduates and so on. I don't want to talk about that as I left politics, so I'm happy. But about that, there is no point now for in this very particular podcast for us to discuss. But I think what is important, is that businesses, they do not leave education systems as they go. We now, I can say, can use this. The private sector also can contribute a lot to how the education system looks like, and we have very good examples already where companies, they basically provide solutions helping teachers. One of the initiatives, Teachers Lead Tech, they are scaling now. It emerged in Lithuania, but now they are scaling internationally, and they basically help teachers, use technologies in their classrooms. At the same time, children, develop their creativity and cooperation skills. So it is important not to leave education only for the decision makers, because you never know, who will take over. And at the same time, everybody wants their country, to have, as I said, critically, independently thinking communities and individuals.
Oh, yes. So, yeah, I agree that now is not the time to delve deep into the educational discussion, but it is a very important topic. I definitely agree with you that the end goal should still be a thinking individual, an independently thinking individual that can make decisions for themselves.
Problem solving, right?
Yeah.
It's not that, you need, now you have to know the exact fact, some very particular one. You can ask Google or ChatGPT now. Of course, you have to double check and verify. Then we need you to be a creative and a self-sustained person.
Yeah, indeed. Critical thinking has never been so important as in our day and age, where the skills that are being taught are maybe not as important because skills develop, skills change. You can always pick things up, and that has always been one of the major critiques of educational systems, that the skills that you get taught in university and the skills that you pick up in working are two different things, and blah blah blah. Again, don't want to go too deep.
Yeah, sometimes these diplomas, they don't work now.
Yeah.
Right? The experience you gained through years is something that is more important.
Yeah. That's, as a person who hires people, that's definitely what I look for. I don't really care the type of the diploma. Sure, during the interview, if I saw Harvard or something in your resume, I would talk about it. That was your experience in Harvard. But probably nothing more than that.
Same with me. When I hired people, I sometimes even didn't take a look at their CV. What is important is the personality and what the experience you have.
Yeah. And then there's a whole other heavy topic of how to actually make the time to talk to every single person and understand them, and how to make sure that the person understands what kind of position they're applying for and whether or not there's connection there. And all of that is being disrupted by AI, where, candidates apply to everything because AI can write 1,000 cover letters like that. And recruiters use AI to filter out the thousands of applications that they get because it's impossible to even read them all. So though the people that are trying to find something cannot get to the people that are making the decision, and the people that are making the decision cannot even look at the people that they are trying to do that because they're so... That's true. That's a very deep topic. How the labor market works now with the AI and the hiring part of it. It's insane. So let's go to the more simpler things of governmental policies and transforming economies.
Simpler.
Much simpler things. So what are maybe some missteps or challenges that you have faced in your career that have contributed to maybe the country not being where it should be, or maybe in your experience in East Africa, where maybe some African countries not benefiting from some opportunities that they had at the time?
Well, the question is of what's missing.
Yeah, maybe something that was missing or something that went wrong, or something that you think that
Well, the
could have
thing
done better.
is, that I am always, when I'm looking at the glass, I always see it half full.
An optimist.
Yes, and maybe that's the problem sometimes. My sort of how to say it, one of the approaches I used when I was in office was that you have to ask yourself whether you have left things better rather than worse, And I think that despite being not perfect, obviously, and despite maybe making some mistakes, we left things better than we found, and that's enough for me. Now, when it comes to mistakes, I don't know. I still think that it has to be more time. The time has to pass. And I still need more time. To maybe reflect on what happened. Maybe also, it always starts with yourself. Everything starts with yourself. Yeah. Not only how you approach people, but also or things, but also how you feel about yourself and so on. So this space is still, for me, is still something to consider. And these areas are maybe those where could we find, where one could find something to change. But as I said, I'm an optimist, and I think that, well, yeah, I mean, people are texting me and saying that look at what's going on in Lithuania, it's bad. Yeah, sometimes, I mean, there are some events that are disappointing, and how things are going, but let's step a bit farther, and let's see where we are, and especially having this opportunity to see also from the African context, comparing where we are. Wow, it's well, Lithuania is a huge success story. Enormous, and in the whole region, it is a success story. So we just have to keep on that track, and not to shoot ourselves in the head, because the worst enemy is of course, in the very beginning, is yourself.
Oh yes, that is true. But I think you've mentioned a very important point, that kind of incremental change. Mm-hmm. It's hard to notice in the moment. Of course, I cannot relate to incremental change on a governmental level myself, but I do have a lot of experience on the business level, yes. So more in-depth, where you're so focused on your day-to-day when you're solving problems, jumping from crisis to crisis, from client to client, or whatever, that it's very hard to note whether or not the company is doing better or if it's doing worse. Of course, you have your universal metrics, like, for example, GDP for a country or revenue for a company, but it does not give you all of the whole picture of what's actually going on. Sometimes your revenue doesn't grow, but you've become more efficient, you've gained new clients, you've hired some interesting people, or maybe even fools, but you became leaner, you became more agile, more adaptive, you pivoted in your business or whatever. So those things are hard to notice, but it takes time to develop that skill to notice them, basically. And I agree that a lot of people just don't have that skill, maybe because they don't need it, honestly, even kind of on our level of like our company's board, which is a small company, but still, we tend to kind of forget to just sit down and count the numbers and see, okay, we are doing pretty good. You know, when you jump out of the day-to-day grind, basically, when you take inventory of what you've accomplished, then you can think, yeah, you know what? Yeah, we've hired some people, we've gotten new clients, we've like opened up a new office or whatever. So we've done those things. Yeah, really. Like all of them together, they make a better picture in the end. So those incremental things, they are very, very
And we tend to not to look at them.
yeah.
It's a daily operations where you just, if you're going through hell, keep going. That's a famous quote by Winston Churchill. And then you can't sometimes see what you already accomplished. And especially as Lithuanians, well, I think it's a cultural thing. We don't want to hear that we live good. We don't think that, honestly. And when there was a survey or it was announced that young Lithuanians are like the happiest in the world, it was crazy. No, it's impossible. You know, the whole the whole debate was about that. It's wrong. I mean, of course, there was some optimism, but at the same time, it went to get along with the with the criticism. So and I think that Lithuania was number 20 in the world, for the whole population. So then, it's impossible. I remember now. I think tell you about it. When there was some debates during the election campaign. And I made a statement that was a very controversially perceived. I said that Lithuania is living the best life when it comes to its economic situation.
Yeah.
I was criticized not only by the wider public but also by my own team that I shouldn't say that because it's not something it's not you normally do. Everything is bad.
Yes.
And you have to address that. So I'm not saying that everything is good, but as we just said, discussed, you know, that sometimes you have to stop and see what the incremental change happened and what you achieved, you know, comparing to your starting point. So because you may get depressed, you know, if you don't see that change.
Yeah. And I think that's what is actually happening to a lot of people in a lot of cultures in a lot of countries, where you have your algorithmically driven engagement on the one hand, desire for instant gratification on the other, where, you know, everything that is bad is amplified, everything that is good goes unnoticed because it's not as trendy, not as clicky.
Or it has to be this way, you know?
Yeah.
We take good for granted.
Yeah, that's the default. That's the default. So you're trapped in this cycle of everything is bad, everything is getting worse, everything is blah, 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 blah. And you don't have the time or the bandwidth even to kind of zoom out and take inventory that, you know what? Comparing to the 90s, we're like in a space age. Like everything is much, much better than it used to be then in our parents' generation, in our grandparents' generation, and so on and so forth. Not the same for maybe the Western part of the world. They have a whole different relationship to previous generations. But in this area of the world, more or less, we've been making, I use the term literally, of course, we've been making a lot of progress and a lot of strides. And again, coming as an outsider into this whole ecosystem, I am pleasantly surprised by what the people have managed to achieve. And I am always very impressed by that, because countries are small, their kind of weight in the global economics is also comparatively small. And it's very easy to lose a lot of yourself along the way, a lot of who your culture is, a lot of who you are, a lot of everything that makes you you. But like the Baltics specifically, if I can narrow it down a little bit, they are very much a success case in my eye. don't criticize me if I'm right. Don't do it. Do not come to my DMs and tell me that everything is bad and I just don't understand anything because I am
A foreigner.
a dirty foreigner that doesn't know anything.
Yeah. But at this point when we are having this conversation, obviously, well, we have to know that there is a lot of uncertainty in this world. We have tariffs, we have wars, we have many things. I mean, we have globalism that is, well, changing into regionalism maybe, and so on.
Yeah.
But then, well, what to do? I mean, we still have to keep up with our work, and we have to keep up with the innovations and keep trading, keep developing. That's that, and especially I'm very, cautious about what's going on in Europe from the regulation part, because as I said, it's turbulent times. Everybody talks about that. There are so many articles and podcasts about it. But then recent news that came from the European Commission with their idea to implement a pan-European tax on some of the enterprises in Europe. Crazy. This is something that well, it shouldn't be said. It shouldn't be done, and we sometimes move the opposite way. Obviously, I think that it won't happen. That tax, sorry, I don't remember the name of it, but then it seems so that, well, we have to think about how to be more competitive, but at the same time, I use the phrase a lot in today's podcast. I mean, someone starts shooting in their foot. So it's sometimes it's crazy. Let's stop that.
Yeah. That will take us into the long political discussion of, general European politics versus the US politics and global politics. And today we're trying to talk about you and not the whole political scene.
Yeah.
So from your perspective, then, moving forward into the future, you have seen the long route to innovation and to successes. While, again, arguably not everything is a success and not everything can be a success. Yes, of course, big disclaimer.
Yeah, I mean, economic success, but unsuccessful elections.
Well, yeah. What can you do?
Yeah.
Again, every political career should end at some point. That's a healthy situation for a political career to have, and I think you have achieved a lot in that political career yourself. So, nothing to be, ashamed about at the very least. So, looking towards the future, what do you feel is the next step in innovation, maybe for Lithuania as a country, or for the Baltics as a region, or like Europe as a continent, or whatever?
Well, my point perhaps is very cliche, AI, machine learning. Yes, it is already here, but how do we, apply it so that it would help us and not destroy us? And I'm talking not about the regulation, but more about education, how to, put AI work for our needs in the education system. Business, I think it uses it already, and you see yourself that, I mean, processes are now more efficient, more automatized, and we need also less people to hire because it helps a lot. It's a good thing, but then how to use it in the education system, because many people, they are thinking about how to stop it entering classrooms and universities, but at the same time it is just here. Students are using it already.
yeah.
So AI, both on the application side but also on the developing the very technology. And And then competitiveness, it's a very competitive world, and Europe is a competitive continent, despite all these things we discussed and bureaucracy and stuff. Still, I am, as I said, I'm an optimist. And I sometimes say that if you want to stay at the same place, you have to run as fast as possible. And if you want to go somewhere, then you have to run 3 times faster than you ran before. So this is something we may apply to politics, decision maker, but also business, to keep up with the track with the pace you have. It is very difficult to maintain your position. So for Lithuania to maintain the growth of its economy, the competitiveness, it is very hard. So let's not make silly decisions. Well, some of them were made already, but maybe I'm talking about taxes. But let's see. Maybe we can do something and fix it. And business is always ready to innovate. That's what I learned for the past months.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. The whole AI and machine learning stuff, it's out there. The debate is still out whether or not it's going to actually contribute something to the economy or it's going to take away something, but it is there. The effects are felt, and we have to do something with it, to it, in order to continue the pace, as you have said. So yeah, I hope that it's going to be a positive one. I have stated many times on this show that I am an optimist as well, especially when it comes to tech. So I'd like to see the positive sides of tech. I don't want to ignore the negative sides of them, but I want to kind of contribute to the positive side. So I don't want to contribute to the negative ones, more to the positive sides. And I believe,
of course, the coin has 2 sides, but
yeah. But you can point that younger generations and students can easily cheat with ChatGPT, or you can point to the fact that everybody has their own personal tutor that can actually help them delve into the questions much deeper. Side tangent, very quick one. I recently started going through regaining my driver's license due to the local regulations, because I need to. And I started learning the local driving rules and everything from the ground up. And it was both funny to me, how it differs from when I learned it initially, oh my God, so many years ago, I wouldn't even say, but a lot of years ago. It was very fun. But what is even funnier than that is that now I have AI, and I can actually take a rule from the rule book, give it to AI, and tell, okay, explain this to me, because I do not understand the way that it is written. And I remember when I was learning the first time, when I was 18, and we're reading the regulations as they are written in the high language that they are usually written in, and I'm like, okay, I don't really understand what's written there. I just need to remember the mnemonic devices. How do I act? Now I can actually understand them.
Did you receive the license?
I passed my theoretical exam, so yes,
halfway there.
I still need to pass the physical one. By the way, by the time this airs, I might have already have a license, so maybe. I hope so. I hope that I won't fail. But yeah, that's a pretty practical example. Yeah, I can theoretically use that to cheat. Again, there are many anti-cheat things that I can probably not cheat realistically, but I can kind of cut corners at the very least. Or I can actually delve deeper and make more. So again, optimistic in that sense. Okay, before I let you go, one very quick question and a very silly one. So off camera, you mentioned that you play the piano, right? What's your favorite piece?
Oh my goodness. Actually, I'm very bad at it now. I think it's only a couple of songs I could play. Or, well, maybe more I have to remember. What the thing is that when I left school, I didn't play anything. And during COVID, I was so bored because I was staying at home for 17 days because of the quarantine. And I was so bored, so I started playing again. And then I gave up again. So I wouldn't say that I have sort of my favorite piece, but I play basically everything. And, during my school time, I played a lot of classics like Tchaikovsky and so on. And now I play just songs that, I don't play, but if I played, I play songs that I like some Coldplay pieces or Kate Bush. I could play a part of some songs.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
you
you.
very much. Thank you, Aušrinė, for taking the time to talk to us. Thank you for giving your insights. Where can people find you? Where can people read more of you, hear more of you in the future?
Oh yeah, so join me, or let's connect on LinkedIn. I'm not on Facebook, and I'm happy about it. I don't miss it anymore. And Instagram as well.
Okay. Okay. Very un-Lithuanian in that sense, but again, you have your own personal history, so that makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and thank you all for joining us today as well. If you have liked what you have heard here today, leave a comment saying why you've liked it. If you didn't, remember to be a little bit positive and try to leave a more positive comment, but still, if you don't, you can still leave something unpositive as well. We will survive. But yeah, try and find something positive within your life and within your surroundings and promote that, and subscribe to us, like us, and share us. And see you on the next one. Bye-bye.